Gino Stocco and his son Mark would appear out of nowhere and just as easily disappear into nowhere. Crisscrossing state borders, covering their trails, stealing, destroying, amassing an arsenal.
But you wouldn't know how many guns they'd have. You know, they've been doing this for years and years and years. Even if you go back 8 years, you know, there would have been guns around that they've probably taken that, you know, were down behind the shearing shed or, you know, under the cupboard in the laundry.
It makes you feel very unsafe. Every night, we have the shotgun beside the bed. We got a dog that was going to bark and let us know if, by some chance, they walked in. You know, if they come back. We'd get up, you know, and go, you know, look around on the moonlit nights, just if, you know, the dogs were barking and stuff.
But who were these violent, vindictive men preying on country people?
I've come across crimes where people repeatedly commit crimes, where one individual is mentally ill, is psychotic, got delusions about things, and the other person, who's usually a relative, a brother, a partner, gets caught up in that individual's delusions. But you've got one person who's crazy and is driving it with their odd ideas, and the other person gets sucked in to this world of madness and then goes along with the crime.
Sunday Night has traced the pair's first big criminal run all the way here to Port Fairy on Victoria's southern coast. In 2006, the Stoccos had bought a yacht in New South Wales under a false name and sailed it here. They failed to pay mooring fees, broke into the local sailing club and stole $3,000, and when police finally found them, they found this as well. A treasure trove of stolen IDs and false documents.
They have rather grandiose ideas of themselves. I mean, is it the fantasy of the bushranger? Is it the fantasy of the master criminal? I mean, heaven knows what it is, but there's something like that in there.
After prison terms of a few months each, Gino and Mark did what they'd come to do with chilling expertise. They disappeared. It would be 2 years, 2009, before they came out of the smoke and ruin of Black Saturday to terrorize Rick and Sandra Zipson.
I lost trust in people. I've got so scared. I've never been so scared in my life. I mean, you wonder, yeah, who can do something like this? I mean, I've changed. I'm just wanna be for ourselves, and yeah, it's not nice. We just don't understand why.
Well, they've destroyed everything, all our livelihood, and probably we'll never forget what happened here. It's we've got mental damage probably for the rest of our days, I'd say.
Scared every night, scared every move which was outside. I just jumped up.
From regional Victoria through the back blocks of New South Wales, the Stoccos blazed a malicious and destructive trail that swept through the lives of Ian and Shelley Durkin.
I think the worst thing they've done is, you know, the emotional stuff they've brought upon people. But I mean, there's people that probably won't farm anymore.
It's destroyed them.
Yeah, it really has.
It wasn't just the menace, the hair-triggered temperament that victims found confronting. It was also their home life. No sooner would the pair move into their farm quarters that Gino would remove internal doors. At Ian and Shelley's workers' cottage, that included doors to otherwise private areas, like the bathroom. According to some accounts we've gathered, the father and son shared the one bed.
Sleeping in the same bed, It's easy to jump to a sort of fantasy of homosexual incest. We don't really have any evidence for that. We know some things about them. They clearly have obsessional qualities. They're quite rigid, careful. That's never good news in a criminal, because it means that they're going to be more effective. They actually are capable of doing more damage.
Their rampage was relentless. On it rolled to and through Queensland, all the way to Doug Redding's place.
They just seem to be able to fly under the radar. I think, you know, they know the system intimately. But if you add up the millions upon millions of dollars worth of arson and damage that's been done in areas that they've been at that time, you know, it's not petty crime, is it?
For 2 years, Doug had been trying to get the authorities to act, to do something about the appalling exploits of the Stoccos. Finally, in the middle of last year, action.
They've been on the run for 8 years, allegedly stealing from and trashing dozens of properties.
Just the absolute lowest form of human being that we have, unfortunately.
They've been dodging the law by only travelling at night, living on cash and operating in remote areas.
They're always one step in front of us in that regard.
I suspect they were living out some fantasy, which was self-justifying, so that very few people, even people who do terrible, terrible things, actually think they're doing evil or wrong. They have a story for themselves where it's either justified or for the good. And I'd be very surprised if these two are not like most villains.
Doug's efforts were finally paying off. Queensland Police issued an alert on the Stoccos. By August, Gino Stocco was listed among Australia's most wanted.
When? Not long. Not long. Marco, we're going to own all this. We're going to control it, own it.
But they knew vast tracts of the eastern states like the back of their hands.
When we get going at them, mate, no one's going to see us coming.
Hideouts, back roads, nighttime cover. There were sightings that led nowhere.
The last verified sighting of the Stoccos was at 1 o'clock yesterday morning.
Then, in October last year, the Stoccos came too close to the law for their own comfort.
Police car was rammed yesterday.
After a shootout with police officers in Wagga Wagga.
They tried to kill police officers.
They sped away from police.
Their full-time job at the moment is avoiding capture.
It's not that unusual for these situations where two men are on, as it were, a crime spree, for the crimes to get more and more serious as time goes on.
The scene was set for a final, deadly confrontation.
The most wanted men in Australia.
You've gone past the point of no return. It's time to stop, give yourself up, and let us deal with what it is you've done.